Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code ONEFREEPP for a free single card today.
Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Sunday, October the 27th. It's race number 7 at Anita, the Grade 3 Autumn Miss Stakes. These are 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the turf. Let's take a look at this field. Remember to access free formulator past performances on the race of the day event page at DRF.com. Take a peek, handicap along with us. Interesting field of 10 in here, Ashley. Medoro's consistency might make her the horse to beat.
I think so. Obviously, she's a 4-time winner in her last 2. She's come up a little bit short, but I guess for her and several in here, you don't have to face the winner of those last 2, which makes this a little bit in the easier spot. But I think the interesting thing of the field, Dan, was there's some wild cards in here, some horses that we haven't seen in a long time, or horses that might have disappointed in their last effort, but you go 2-3 races ago, they were right there.
Should be a good amount of pace in this race. And one of Medoro's best qualities is that she has tactical speed. Let's see where our friends at Timeform US have her placed after the opening half mile. And they have her in mid-pack behind what could be a fast pace, and why not? Tahini just went gate to wire in her most recent start, as did Sneaker. Wine on Tap has shown speed on dirt. Even Tiara Queen has shown a little bit of tactical speed. So there's a chance this pace could get lively.
I think so. I think the pace will be at least moderate to the fast side of things. You mentioned just the 2 on top here, the 4 Tahini and the 8 Sneaker. Why change anything when they've been so game in their last 2? And they want to be forwardly placed. You don't think you're going to see these horses necessarily being taken back in this race. And if they hook up early at the mile distance, that could set up for some pace for these other horses to maybe be rolling late.
The horse with the fastest Timeform US late pace rating is the 5 Mixologist. Cutting back in distance would appreciate a hot race flow, as might the number 1 Zona Verde. This horse might be closer to the pace than where Timeform US has her. She's stretching out off a downhill 6.5 furlong sprint. The last time she routed, she got a pretty good position early, saving ground in behind the lead, then just got in tight in the stretch. On her best day, she can fit with these horses. She's just a little inconsistent.
She is inconsistent, but I think that goes back to, you look at her last quote unquote 2 poor efforts, both 6.5 on the downhill. So I think her stretching back out on distance, she makes a lot of sense. I think with the inside draw, she might get that stalking trip. And you can't forget 3 starts back going the mile distance. She finished in front of Medoro. I have to think their price difference, once we see the morning line and come this weekend, is going to be significantly different. I have a feeling. I would think that this filly might be the better price of the 2 by far, and the numbers 2 and 3 back make her extremely competitive here.
Also trained by Phil D'Amato is her next door neighbor in the starting gate, the number 2 Ashan, who's going to be stretching out in distance for the first time. And that's a little bit of a question mark, although I guess you just trust D'Amato in this case because he's so good. We haven't seen this horse off a lengthy layoff, however, so has to deal with the distance, has to deal with a layoff.
Yeah, long layoff. You kind of wonder what she's been doing for the last 11 months. You have no idea. And when I go back and I look at all the works, the earliest one dates August 22nd. So maybe she was turned out for a bit, maybe between 2 and 3. She had those growing pains that we know 2 to 3-year-olds typically have. And you just let them be a horse for a bit and they come back, and sometimes they're stronger than ever. I like that our works have been consistent, Dan, equally spaced when you look at them and you go back. But a lot of questions you just don't know, and this is a different ball game for her. We haven't seen her in so long, and now she has to go a mile at first asking. That might be a lot.
The 3 is Wine on Tap, and the question for her is surface as she tries grass for the first time, getting blinkers for trainer Richard Mandel. Kind of spotty form on dirt, coming into this race off a little bit of a layoff. I did watch her last workout, or at least her workout 2 starts back on XBTV. She shared the bullet over the synth with Sumter. Couldn't keep up with Sumter, but Sumter's pretty good. Came back out of that work to win the restricted lure stakes on the turf with a 95 Beyer speed figure. So perhaps Wine on Tap's just going to appreciate a little bit of a change in circumstances.
You mentioned Sumter finally able to break that losing streak and get back to the winner's circle. Obviously, there is a question here. Just the second start since last year in October, now trying the turf. I mean, Richard Mandela, very good with first-time turf and kind of moving here off the surface, but gets blinkers on. I feel like that's a combination of a lot going on. And my one concern would just be her dirt form. I mean, they're good races, but they're not great races to this point. And maybe she's done some maturing. Maybe she'll improve second off. I think from a pedigree perspective, that's probably the most intriguing. The mare was very good on synthetic and turf surfaces, going longer. So maybe that's the upside on her. I mean, she's very well bred.
Tahini is the number 4, and she's coming into this race sharp after beating 3 of today's rivals. In this first level allowance race, she's won her last 2 starts. She won from off the pace 2 starts back going 5/8 and then showed that stretch out speed in here to get to the lead. And she's able to outsprint Watchtower to the wire. This is a good performance for Tahini, who's obviously in career form.
Yeah, her last two, same number, both the 79 buyers. She's taken a big step forward. They've both been wins, and you can see at the 5/8 distance off their little bit of a freshening. She was just kind of, I don't want to say outrun, but she wasn't as quick as the others, and she was comfortable rating, made a late move and was able to win. And then stretching out to the mile distance, she was forward. She caught a little bit of a flyer on top in terms of a couple of lengths on the field and was able to stay in front. The question here is what happens if she faces pressure? I think Sneaker obviously wants to be forward as well, and I have a feeling that these two fillies might be battling it out. It's something that in the past, if you go to the winter and spring months out at Santa Anita, it was usually kind of meeting her demise in that sense, right? She would back up in those final stages, maybe the final 16th of a mile. Maybe she's just better now. I mean, obviously, it's hard to knock her last two with the way she's done it so easy.
Turning back in distance in a race with pace might be just what the doctor ordered for the 5 mixologists, who tried a mile and 3/8 last time out in a graded stakes race in New York. I thought overall she got a good closer's trip. The pace was fast. She cut the corner into the stretch and saved all the ground, but she just flattened out a little bit late. And the winner's a nice horse who came back to run third in the graded weigh there with an 88 buyer, placed first via disqualification 2 starts back. Give her a trip. She's going to come running late.
Yeah, I think that was the thought process. You look at her debut, you look at the race two back. She's been rolling late. Give her more ground, but we know that doesn't necessarily always work. And she's taking a jump up in class from the race two back, in my opinion, to the race more recently last month. We'll see what she can do here. Another one that now joins a new barn. She's been working over the synthetic surface and the dirt as well at Santa Anita. And if the pace is hot, we saw the late pace flag, right? The LP flag was attached to her. Maybe she can roll late in here. Just wonder if a mile might be a little short for her. Love this if it was a mile and an eighth.
Medoro is the horse to beat. She's never been off the board from 6 lifetime starts, and she finished ahead of 3 of these rivals in the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks. Let's watch Medoro's performance. She's going to finish second. Zona Verde is going to finish third. Medoro looks like she's in a prime position turning for home. She eases out into the stretch. She just couldn't make up the tactical advantage that I Scream, You Scream had when that horse got loose on the lead.
No, they're, looking at these two, especially the winner, she's traveling best late. She really is. And I think the runner up and the third place finisher, even fourth place, they were all doing what they could do, but they weren't going to get to the winner. And she's been a little bit of a rival, especially when you look at Medoro's race last time out, or you go back to July at Del Mar, it's been the same thing. But I like that Medoro has at least been handy enough to be further back and make a late move or be closer to the pace. And I'm okay with her finally facing defeat in those races. I think she's shown a little bit of a different dimension. She's had to adjust. She had some time off, and we'll see what she does getting back to Santa Anita. We've talked about this in a couple of videos now. I don't want to say she's a horse for a course, but she may like the Santa Anita turf course just a little bit more.
Perhaps the 7 Tiara Queen is now fully acclimated to racing in Southern California after beginning her career overseas. She's had 2 runs in allowance races for trainer Patty Gallagher, even performances both times, finished behind several of these, so she is going to have to improve.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Her performances have been decent, but when you see that she's got to face several of those fillies once again, it's a little bit of a tough case to make for her because nothing's really changing, right? There's no equipment change. Yes, there's a rider change, Kyle Frey's climbing aboard, but distance is the same. And her trips have been almost identical in both of those races where she's been close to the pace and she's just lacked that kind of late punch that she'll need. And I'm afraid she might do it again.
Here's the Calbred number 8 Sneaker beating open first level allowance horses last time out and doing so on the lead. Sneaker was able to get up to the front and set a pretty legitimate pace. I like the way she sprints clear here at the 3/16 pole. Watchtower is going to end up finishing second. You'll see Sneaker pop back to her left lead in the final 16th of a mile, but she's strong under the wire, mile and 33 and change.
Yeah, this is a really nice performance. We keep talking about Sneaker and Tahini and what happens. Let's not forget they're also stable mates. And they're for different outfits too. So that changes things a little bit. I think this one has gotten a little bit better with each of her starts. Another one that it seems like the time off between Santa Anita and Del Mar suited her well. She's taken a little bit of a step forward with each of those starts. I think the question here is how is she going to fare against stakes competition? You look in the past, she's been so-so against fellow Calbreds, and these aren't Calbreds.
Circle of Trust is the number 9, and she's a graded stakes winner. She won the Honeymoon 2 starts back, and she utilized late running tactics that might benefit her very well if the pace is fast. Now, she was dismissed at a big price in the Del Mar Oaks, and she just didn't run up to par against some of these. So she's going to have to take a little bit of a step forward off of the Del Mar race, but that race at Santa Anita 2 starts back was very promising.
I mean, she was a big price last time out, but it was her first start in a little bit, and then she went back to the shelf. That makes me think that Phil D'Amato wasn't really happy with the performance, and they've taken a little bit of time to get her back. She's been training consistently, has a ton of works, and some of them a little bit on the quicker side than others, and she's going to get a new rider. I shouldn't say new rider, rode her in debut, Umberto Rispoli's booked to ride, and for her, I wonder if cutting back might suit her well. She's been at 1 1/8 miles for quite some time now, and she's going to go back to the mile.
After dead heating for a victory at Gulfstream Park when trained by Chad Brown, the 10 Watchtower went to public auction, sold for a pretty hefty sum, $310,000. Has had 2 starts for Richard Baltus in Southern California and has been chasing gate-to-wire winners both times. She might get a better race flow here.
Yeah, and I like that last time out, at least she was closer to the action early. They did go a little bit quicker, too. I think that's worth noting compared to the race on the 2nd of September at Del Mar. She was towards the back of the pack. She's just second best behind Tahini. We know Tahini's running style. And then, unfortunately, she had to face another front runner last time out with Sneaker, and we saw that performance. And I think the big thing with her is she has the adaptability. I think she'll be a price in here, and got a nice drill coming into this event.
Esprit Enchant, the number 11, still eligible for a non-winners at 2 life heat. Chased Tahini last time out, was on the outside, had her chance turning for home, was just outrun a little bit at the end. Decent buyer speed figure, 2 starts back, has to run back to that number and perhaps a little better.
Well, the interesting thing is 3 and 4 back, she was closing from further off of it, and now she's become that sort of chaser. And I don't know if that's really worked for her. It wasn't bad 2 starts back, but last time out, I think she needed more. She didn't have it, and sometimes you're at a disadvantage. Maybe, again, it goes back to the race she's coming out of with Tahini being on the front end and being able to kick clear. But another one, I think, going to need to take a step forward today in this spot.
Tim Yaktin's going to forge on with the 12C Dancer. Her last win came in a first-level allowance. They've thrown her in 4 stakes races since, and thus far, she hasn't proven to be up to the task. Not only is she facing good stakes horses again, she's mired in a very tough outside post position.
Now she's going to, stretch back out in distance. To me, they've thrown a lot at her. 1 1/8 miles, 1 1/8 miles. Then they go to 6.5, and now they're back to 1 mile. Yeah, she's a tough one to see. I mean, you look at the form that she had, say, in the beginning of the year, maybe you make a case for her. But to me, as of late, again, it's just the same thing. These fillies have really squared off against each other their fair share of times, and she's never really been close to it.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Sunday race of the day. You're going with Medoro, simply the horse to beat.
Yeah, not going to be a huge price in here, in my opinion. Has some of the best figures. And sure, she's on a quote-unquote losing streak, but I think she's gained a lot out of her last 2. And excited to see her back at Santa Anita.
I think she's very, very dangerous. Wine on Tap just has some interesting angles for me. Dirt to turf, blinkers on, tactical speed. Hoping for a little bit of a wake-up call for Mandel at a slightly better price. 3685 for me, 6138 for Ashley. It's the Sunday race of the day, and it kicks off a pick 4 at Santa Anita. Good luck.
Hey friends, you look like you're in need of a winner. If you enjoyed the great content right here, just click and subscribe right here and enjoy the great DRF.com race of the days, the phenomenal stakes previews, and so much more. Many of that content featuring me and my exceptional selections. Trust me, you won't regret it.